The Bitcoin bears specifically are in full control. We spoke about this yesterday. We did look for a little bit of a long trade. We gave the bulls the final line in the sand, the benefit of the doubt that they would maybe hold that $88,000 level, and they just couldn't. Price ran straight through that. And not only in those markets, it's other markets as well, right? NVIDIA giving up all of the gains, big moves towards the downside. And if you look at the banter bubbles over here, it's just an absolute sea of red, double-digit losses, and many are still debating, is the bull run even on anymore, right? This is a common topic amongst multiple different groups, chat groups. If you're looking around different WhatsApp groups, everybody is having that debate. We'll talk about that in today's video. We have covered it at length, but this is the picture, right? Things coming down pretty aggressively over there. So when will it stop? When will the selling end? Will you catch any sort of a bounce zone? What are the key levels to look at? We'll get into all of that and a whole lot more. First and foremost, let's just review some of our trades in the traditional markets before we do get into the rest of the crypto markets. I gave yesterday a second opportunity, literally right over there, for anyone that missed out on the first gold short trade. It was coming in at that level. That tested that at $4,121 over there and rejecting, right? So still break of structure, lower highs, lower lows, prices moving towards the downside. And of course, if you can break this line over here, this is going to be a significant zone, 3,900 on gold. This should accelerate very quickly towards the downside. No risk on this trade. We've eliminated it all. Stops are at break even. Silver moving down even more aggressively than gold. You can see over here, lower lows, lower highs. Again, gave you another opportunity at $52.46 just yesterday for the place to go short if you missed out on the first trade. And there it was, exactly testing at that level and marking down. This one's got a little bit more work to do, but I think that silver will fall out much quicker than what gold is over there. So some pretty good trades. We do need to look at the S&P 500 as well, which had a decent size move towards the upside. Let's just quickly refresh that. Give me 1 second, guys. Apologies for that. We'll get into the S&P 500 quickly over here. There it is. So you can see that. Have a look at that. Huge move up. Price comes down. Big bearish retest, rejects, strong move towards the downside. What do you call this? Well, this is called reading the tape, right? When you have a lot of data that comes out that's not theoretically that bearish, it's mostly been good news, but price is rejecting and coming down quite aggressively. Of course, not really a good sign. And that shows you it's really a risk-off signal for the broader markets. And Dow Jones, we can have a look at that as well. Rejecting off that key level we said yesterday, this was the level that you wanted to hold. Bearish retest into that, breaks down. QQQ, same thing. Bearish retest into the 50% level, breaks down. These are key things that you need to be paying attention to. Most importantly, NVIDIA, big move up. We said if it was going to be bullish, you need to defend and hold this. Full on rejection over there. So today could end up being an absolute bloodbath for the broader markets. Tesla as well. Look at that, breaking below the white line. The white line is a high time frame range high, which you wanted to break and hold above. Based on the way these candles are forming over here, it looks like it may want to go lower. And then, of course, we have MicroStrategy, which we've been in that short trade, and it is just absolutely printing, right? So down 44% since the original entry over there. It has been aggressive. Look at that trend line over there. That shows there will be a lot of upside liquidity for MicroStrategy to bounce at some point, but it's been aggressive. Very strong move towards the downside. Almost full profits already. I told you I'm not closing this trade though. I'm going to extend this trade even further. I'm going to be holding this for a very long time as a short trade. But of course, don't get too greedy. If you took this trade with me, at this point, you can definitely shave some profits, pay yourself a little bit over here, because at some point there is going to be a big bounce up that will create a reset, another opportunity to go short again. And I'm going to be holding this basically all the way to the bottom, whenever the bottom is going to be, which will take, I think, a couple of months from now. So if you are wanting to trade other markets, remember, we have a lot of opportunities in Whale Room as well. We have Singh over here, who he also took a similar trade to me on gold, but he's more highly leveraged and looking at lower time frames. All of that has been dropped, right? So you can see over here, a lot of the guys making money on these gold short trades as well, which we've been dropping. So if you want to join in with the crew, remember, I didn't check the numbers this morning. I think yesterday we were 60% full. I'll get the new numbers this morning. I would assume we probably had about 70% full on the Black Fridays. If you do want to take advantage of that, the link is in the description below. Once it's full, we're closing it off. We will not be letting other people in unless somebody leaves to open up that space. Take advantage on Black Friday. You're getting almost 50% or 48% off. So MicroStrategy, let's have a look at it. Here you can see as MicroStrategy's average buy price coming in just under $80,000. The average cost per BTC, exact number, 74,400. And remember, there are times that it goes under, right? So if we have a look at the previous, there we go, we'll just zoom in over there a little bit. If we look at the previous bear market, here was the average cost price. The average cost price at that point in time was around $30,000, and Bitcoin went half of that, right? $15,500 is where the bottom was found. So don't think, if you're somebody that's new here, that just because MicroStrategy's average cost is 74K, that Bitcoin's not going under 74. We spoke about it a lot. We spoke about MicroStrategy being the canary in a coal mine based on that Adam and Eve chart pattern on the high time frames, which was playing out. And I don't even want to waste time on this. I know I always see in the chats, I know there's new people that are over here. I'm not here to, backpedal through all my credibility and everything that I've called before. You can go and just watch the videos, right? The receipts are there. Go and watch the videos. But we spoke about this. So it's all playing out. You've broken below those key levels. You broke the neckline. And this is the canary in the coal mine. This tells you that MicroStrategy are probably going to lose those levels at 74K zone at some point. So are we in a bull market or are we in a bear market? That is the big discussion that everyone's having. I think personally the answer is pretty clear and obvious, but just in case you have any confusion, and that's why I asked this over here, is the bull run over or is it just a late cycle correction? This is the discussion, right? A right translated cycle, a 5-year or 6-year cycle. These are the common things that you're going to hear. Bitcoin chases the M2 money supply, which is just up only. There's going to be money printing, $2,000 stimulus checks coming mid-2026, which they're going to be buying the dip on, and that's going to pump price to the moon. Vote. Let me know. While you go vote, please do smash the like button. It helps us get the show content out. Already 1,132 of you have voted, so a couple of you still need to. 48% of you now officially believe, well, it's over, right? We have 25% of you sitting on the fence saying 50-50, meaning you're probably long and hoping for a bounce. And then we have 25% of you suggesting it's a late cycle correction, which really puts the odds at about 50-50, whereas a couple of days ago, we're still sitting at about 70 to 80% of you had a lot of exposure to the market, thinking that, well, the top is not actually in. And, words like this, right? Heavy manipulation. There we see it over there. Heavy manipulation. These are things as well. Mike Alfred on Twitter coming out, presenting his thesis. If you go and Google him, you'll find out why he says mass manipulation. Exchanges are shorting. Institutions are trying to shake us out. In my opinion, that's absolute bull. That is not the case. It is just market cycle theory. And I think that timing within the market is the most important thing. In terms of timing, I mean understanding how these cycles play out over their 4-year period. That is it. You can see over there, BTC cycle, or at least the market cycle bottom return on investment from day 0 in relation to the price cycles. We have purple being this cycle. It pretty much ended exactly in alignment with what happened in 2021 in green and 2017 in orange. It just didn't get as extended, but in terms of the timing, it did. So the new chart that we need to now look at instead is going to be the market cycle peak. So from the absolute peak, what is your return on investment? In other words, your decline, your drop. And this is where we're currently at. We are in purple. Now have a look at this. What happens if we bring out what happened from November 2021 when the peak happened over there? Well, that's what it looks like. This is the most realistic case, right? Is 2021 price coming towards the downside over there? Look at 2017 cycle. You can see over here, very, very similar price action right now. Price is bleeding out, and that's the most likely outcome. You are in a downtrend across all different time frames. And then we can also throw in, of course, peak 2, which was going to be your 2014 cycle. And what does this look most similar to, right? Of course, it looks most similar to those prior cycles where things were dropping off. So keep an eye on that. Those are important charts to consider and to look at. While most of the people are sitting with like an ostrich with their head in the sand in complete denial, things are coming down. Okay. So let's move on. Let's have a look at things over here. Let's look at the data on the whale trade site. Remember, all of this is for free for you guys. Take advantage of your Black Friday for Whale Room if you want to get that extra info. We're locking that down soon. We have a long to short ratio despite price coming down so aggressively. It's not actually that negative. It's only a negative 3.23% skew. When we say like significantly negative, we're talking about 5, 6, 7, 8%, which just shows you that the bears are truly in control, and you're seeing the liquidations pick up. Of course, majority on the long side. And I actually told you this yesterday that there's still, in terms of the funding, we could see a lot of people trying to long that dip. And I even gave the thesis, right, for why you could go looking for that long opportunity. And I tried to take that trade as well, but got stopped out yesterday for very, very, very small loss. We're not playing big numbers over here because it's counter trend, right? We spoke about the risks. I spoke about the pros that the bulls had yesterday in terms of, why they could bounce price. One reason was this, coming into that parallel channel that's reinforced by time. The other reason was the daily fair value gap. The third reason that we had was, of course, the TD sequential 9 buy, which we'll go to on this chart over here. And it failed, right? It was a low probability trade. And I should go over here into the Discord quickly and just show you exactly, so you know what sort of updates you get when it comes to the Discord. And I actually said over here, when building this long position over here, I made everyone a video and I said, oh, and one more thing, if I had to pin a probability on this trade working out, I'm going to give it a low to medium chance. And the reason why is it's counter to the trend. If the funding had gone negative on the weekly, I'd maybe push this into a high probability trade. But the funding was not negative. The funding was positive, telling you that a lot of people are trying to long this dip. And that was the reason why we've seen such mass liquidations over here. So, bears are in control. That's it, right? Who's the captain? Not me. He's the captain. That is the captain over there. He's driving the ship and he's a bear. Look at him. He's wearing his bear suit. He's looking you in the eye and he's telling you, I am the captain. And the captain is winning, right? So price is moving towards the downside. You do have the daily exchange volume, which is still slowly moving up. But usually this is interpreted as something bullish. But I did outline this yesterday. I think it's a lot of people trying to cover positions. They're adding margin. They're transferring money across exchanges, which picks up that daily exchange volume, and therefore you need to be careful. This is not necessarily a good thing. Outflows, there's going to be a whole lot more of these. ETFs are going to continue to sell, and this is where that whole misconception comes in, right? Institutions are trying to force you to sell. They're manipulating it. That's absolute bull, guys. That's not the case. Price is moving down. It's in a downtrend, lower lows and lower highs, and consequently, the buyers of the ETFs are just normal people, retail. They're just buying it through BlackRock, which means they'll also sell it through BlackRock. BlackRock is just the intermediary that's transferring the Bitcoin in or out. They're buying it on behalf of their clients, and that's all that it is, right? So prices are down. Sentiment is pretty bad, but it's actually not as bad as what it was a few days ago. We're sitting at 11, which is pretty interesting over there. So here it is, price in free fall, vitally critical level. Everyone's going to be focused on this order block over here. On the weekly, you really want to see that hold, which means you need a reaction very soon. But at the current state, it's quite obvious. There's no ways that you're going to run up this before the end of this week and close price above that 50 EMA. So remember, my most important signal is things like the 21 EMA price holding below when lined up with where you would expect a timing cycle to end, which was during October, November, December of 2025, you exit. So that was the exit over there. This we fell below, but it didn't meet the timing criteria. This we fell below, but it didn't meet the timing criteria. So your major support levels that are coming into play, if things get a whole lot worse and you capitulate down here, $70,000, right? This is going to be very, very, very significant. If you extend this a little bit towards the left-hand side, that's just $1,000 above where the previous all-time high was. And this one was at 65K, which means this is a massive cluster of support coming into play around that 70,900. And I would be surprised, right? As someone that's bearish, even I would be surprised if you did not bounce off of that level, right? If you hit that level and you just go straight through, well, then we're well and truly cooked, right? Then things are going to get really, really bad. But I think that in this general area, you should expect that there should be at least some sort of relief very, very, very soon. And what I would love to see is, you know, tying it back in with my tweet over here, or not my tweet, but my post where I said that, you know, if the funding had gone negative on the weekly, I'd maybe push us to a high probability trade. So I would attempt another long if you do come into this level over here, and I might even go sized up with spot for a bit of a bounce over there if this funding goes negative. And it's unbelievable that price is coming down so aggressively, and yet the funding on the weekly is still positive. And this tells you a story. It paints a picture. The picture is that there's still a lot of hopium in the market. You need to remove that hopium. You know, you need to, that hopium needs to die off and print negative funding to be, you know, more convincing that we can line up objective data. So we call this objective data is the funding, because that tells us what's going on. And we can line that up with what's happening with the subjective data, which is the sentiment. So the subjective data or sentiment is clearly bad. Obviously, it's bad, right? People are down. People have lost a lot of money, but we need the objective data to be in agreement with that. And for that to happen, you know, maybe you do need to come a little bit lower down into these 70K regions, right? So I'm waiting for that. I'll be willing to take a long over there. You do also have your high time frame moving averages like the 200 on the 5-day, which is coming into this region. But at the end of the day, this is absolutely not good. That was a do or die zone, absolute do or die zone. You've lost it. Now, is it possible that you could run up in the next 16 hours and 26 minutes before this 5-day candle closes and close above, leaving this as a wick? If you do, great. That would look like a shakeout. And then you look for the relief rally after that, which I do not believe will go into all-time highs, by the way. I believe it will be a complacency bounce, which will give you the opportunity to exit. So if you're stuck in positions, should you panic sell now? I think that's insane. I would not do that. I would just wait. That's what you have to do, right? Now you have to wait. So we're looking at the volume over the last 1 year, 12-month period of volume. We lost the daily fair value gap. That level should have held as well. Not that it should have held, but it was an obvious area for potential bounce. And at one point, we're getting that bounce, right? If you look at that candle over there, we're starting to form green, but bears too strong to control, ran price through. So I'm going to clean that up. What we've now gone and done is we've actually run straight through as well the value area low. That is unbelievable. We had $81,000. I actually didn't even realize that. So we absolutely nuking. Just before starting the show, I thought maybe this value area low orange line would hold. Here we are. We're melting straight through that. It's not looking good. Let's see how your votes are changing over here. Maybe you want to reconsider this. I don't know if you can vote again. Okay, once your vote's in, you've locked it. So is the bull run over, or is it a late cycle correction? As price is coming lower, people are getting absolutely rinsed. Let's quickly do a refresher here. I need to see what's going on with the long to short ratio skew. This is absolutely wild. Still only 3.58%. How are the liquidations picking up over here? Still hasn't changed too much, right? Relatively still in the same place. This is nuts. We're dropping hard, dropping very, very, very hard over there. So we've already tagged 81,458. So it unwinds quickly, right? RSI pivot level, price is still below. This is the chart to watch. I said it yesterday. Bam, you've hit the level. We said you do not want this if you're bullish, because hitting this level equals the 4th time breakout. Test 1, 2, 3, 4 on the USDT dominance, right? Break and hold. If you close the weekly above this, this thing is going to expand even further and things will go down very, very, very quick. Let's do a quick refresh on the liquidity and we'll go on the low time frames. I'm not stepping in front of this. I'm not looking to buy the dip. I'm not doing anything. I'm simply just in a predominantly cash position with a couple of short trades on, that being MicroStrategy, that being gold and silver. And I think that today things could get bad, guys. I must be honest with you, just based on what you're seeing in the stock market and the gains that were given up yesterday, right? That move towards the upside and then sudden flush down, probably best shown on NVIDIA. This is not good. When you see something like that in the stock market, this is not good. The S&P 500, same thing, rejection from that clear level. This could be leading into a much bigger pullback in the stock market, which is going to wreck things. So here it is, liquidity. There was a bit of liquidity right now that just got taken. You went straight through that. Upside, there's not much going on. Let's quickly see the weekly over here. Weekly, also nothing on the downside. There is some building on the upside, but it's not really saying much. So let's look at everything else. Let's look at altcoins. ETH coming into the golden pocket. I'd rather wait for a reaction. I would not buy anything over here to try and catch a falling knife. I would instead rather wait for something like this. reclaim the 50% level if you get a strong reaction out of that key zone. So things are absolutely falling out over here. It's pretty bad over here. Look at that on the hourly time frame. So price coming below, kind of descending triangle, breaks down. This is your level, right? 81,500. Let's quickly see ETH. ETH, we said yesterday, I did a session with Whale Room and I said liquidity ripe for the taking. And I told the guys in the Whale Room Zoom, I wouldn't long this unless you saw this. You need a breakup, throw back into horizontal resistance. There we go, which would then flip into support. And you didn't get it, right? Instead, at that exact level, that's what patience is, right? Patience is waiting for that reclaim first to throw back, as opposed to just going long over there and then look what happens. Price comes down, right? So very, very, very deep pullback over here. 2.6 on ETH. Yeah, Zcash still holding up. Unreal. Look, one thing I can tell you is if the market does bounce over here, Zcash is going to absolutely pump. It's going to pump to the moon over there. So we can look at a bunch of charts over here. We got a lot to look at. Let's go through the list over here. Let's go through the list. So remember, guys, if you do want to be with a tight-knit community, take advantage while there is still opportunity. I did just get a message from the team. I can see on my WhatsApp on the other screen over there. We are now at 70% capacity. We got 30% of the spaces left for Whale Room. If you do want to join in there, you're locked in for 1 year, right? You're either in or you're out. We're not doing monthlies or anything like that. You're either in or you're out. We want to be with a group that we can trade all the way to the bottom of the bear market, shorting things and trading other markets. So if you want to join, Whale Room is over there, right? Black Friday is coming to an end very, very, very soon. Let's have a look at the rest of the coins. Let's go through the list. So for ETH, of course, if it fails at the 0.618, the golden pocket, which is where it's at right now, well, then your next level of interest is going to be all the way down here. But just structurally, it's going to look cooked, right? Ideally, you would want to see price action somehow catch a bid today, but I think that the market has other ideas rather than that. XRP breaking some key levels, losing something very significant, and now what you risk having is a Bart Simpson pattern, right? 2 eyes and a very sad face because he's not having a good hair day, and his hair is going to come all the way back down to the bottom of his face. So this is what we're seeing. It's brutal, absolutely brutal over here. Same thing over here. You need to be careful of this. And I know none of you want to hear this, but if you start to break below the $100 level on Solana, it's going to be the same thing, right? Bart Simpson patterns all around. So look, I mean, I'm scared to even draw this because the clippers are going to come out and they're going to clip this. But if Solana breaks below, you got another Bart Simpson pattern, right? Very sad face over there. Okay, so at the end of the day, let's be real. Solana key support $100, probably going to lead to a bit of a bounce over there. Sui just getting completely rinsed, absolutely rinsed. This thing's retracing the 10th of October liquidation wick that occurred over there. Next major support comes in near the bottom over there. Significant support is between 75 cents and $1. Sonic will go into the daily for that. New lows, right? New lows. There it is, printing new lows. Say will go to say as well. Let's move on to the daily chart for that. Breaking below key support and marking down. Remember what TON looks like? You had key support and mark down. So don't think that it can't get worse. A lot of these things can drop a whole lot more. $1.17 is a real possibility of there. Cardano, Bart Simpsoning already for us, moving all the way down. I think full retrace over here, 33 cents. Okay, let's slow down. Let's slow down a little bit over here. Let me check some of these comments. I'm in total shambles. There was another comment over here. Someone was, saying that they're basically in tears. So to slow things down a bit, guys, of course, I understand if you're on leverage, you're going to get liquidated probably, right? There's nothing you can do about that. You're going to have to take it on the chin, reinvent yourself and start again. But if you're in spot, don't be in shambles. Just, take a chill pill. Eventually, there's going to be some sort of a relief rally, and that's going to be your opportunity to get out. There's very few ways that when you make a big mistake and you take heavy drawdown that you can rectify that. The only way really is to add more capital. Now, I'm not saying that is the best thing to do. I wouldn't add any capital to a losing leverage position. But if you have conviction in something like Solana, Ethereum, BTC, and I would struggle to have conviction in anything beyond that, then dollar cost averaging is going to save you a lot, right? It's going to bring your average entry down significantly. And eventually, there is some sort of a bounce that will then probably bring you back to break even or profit if you have dollar cost average. So it's all about the position sizing. But I'm not advocating that you should do any of that because cryptos are incredibly risky, right? And things can always get a whole lot worse. So it depends on the coin selection. It depends on what you're looking at. Okay. Some of you guys comments over there. Your average for Solana is 15, then yeah, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. I mean, you should consider taking profits, so at least at some point, if your average is 15. So let's go through the rest. Here's Casper. We spoke about this. We're about to hit that level. This was a significant level that we said months ago is probably going to be tagged at 0.0356. That's going to be the midline of that parallel channel that's just simply governed price all the way down. And it is also a strong horizontal. We have Tron, which I missed the short of a lifetime on this thing. I think it's going to unwind completely, but that was where we planned it. Price is coming down hard. We got Plasma, price discovery to the downside. Pump hit the level, right? We're waiting for that. So Pump has finally hit this level. Now you need to see some support that's found over here on Pump. It's insane when Bitcoin is weak to even attempt to limit order into any of these altcoins, right? Because Bitcoin is weak, but this might do this over the coming weeks and months, right? That's your best case scenario for Pump. ASTER, which has done pretty well recently, is still trying to hold this trend line. But again, I have to ask you, why would you take the risk? Even though this is kind of moving in an uptrend, the only reason you take this risk is because you are voting in this cohort of, it's a late cycle correction. If you believe it's a late cycle correction, then stick with the things that do have relative strength, which would be something like ASTER. If you're looking for long trades over there, I mean, that would be it. That would be it. But I think it's insane to look for longs. There will be bounces. It's just you don't really want to counter the high time frame trends. So usually what happens is if, the weekly's in a downtrend, the daily's in a downtrend, the 4 hours in a downtrend, but then you have like a 15-minute in an uptrend. Do you go long? No, of course not. What you should be doing is using the 15-minute to see when the uptrend shifts to a downtrend, and then you would short it in alignment with the 4 hour, the daily, and the weekly. Okay, so let's see over here. If no euphoria in the cycle, then forget about 2028. Yeah, no euphoria, no euphoria. The euphoria is not coming. I think that a lot of the retail got wrecked heavily in 2021. Firstly, we all retail, by the way, but we like the last retail. And then I think a lot of the other retail just moved into ETFs, and that's why you saw such big ETF inflows. So if you go through over here, that's why we saw these massive inflows. Look at that inflow week over there. That was basically the exact top. $126,000 Bitcoin with the biggest weekly inflow week for ETFs. So if we get the opposite kind of a candle with the biggest outflow week, that's a complete anomaly, which none of these are, right? These are all more or less in the same size outflows versus relative to the prior ones. But if we get a massive one like this green one, but it's red, I think that would be where you just buy the dip. And that probably gets met with negative funding over here on the weekly, which we still haven't seen. Okay. So yeah, no hopium. I'm sorry, Edward. I have absolutely zero hopium for you. The hopium is in USDT dominance. If it closes above here and you're in USDT, the hopium is you're going to be trading a beautiful breakout towards the upside over there. Unfortunately, for any of the hodlers, it's probably not the news that you want to hear, but I have to be real with you, right? Otherwise, what's the point? Like, there's so many channels that you can watch for hopium if you want a hopium dealer. I give you a hopium dealer or ideal hopium, I should say, when the time is right, when there is actually going to be upside moves. So yeah, we're not seeing that right now. Let's have a look at a couple of the other things. Let's monitor Bitcoin maybe on the lower time frame over here. Okay, so you're getting a bit of a reaction over here, but still, is this something that you should buy in free fall? Of course you can, but it's just a gamble, right? You're not trading, you're just gambling at that point. We don't have much over here to suggest that this is a great buy. Like, you have swept some of this liquidity. This is actually what we spoke about yesterday, which is why I said that I would keep a very tight stop loss for the guys in Whale Room. If we go to Whale Room over here, when we attempted that long trade, look at how tight I kept the stop loss. Stop loss is only 2% away, and it was around those swing lows. And I said I would absolutely stop out right over there. And the reason why was I said, what's going to happen is if you take out that low, you're almost definitely coming for this liquidity over here, which is, I guess, what's happened, right? You've taken that liquidity now. But, now I'd rather wait for some strength to develop, right? You need to see some real signs of a reversal over there to get long. That's brutal. So we drop down to, 81,463. I'm sure that people are going completely mental out there on Twitter and stuff. Let's quickly check. Do we have low time frame like 12 hour? Let's see what's going on with the liquidity here. Now you're going to want to see Bitcoin get back above the breakdown level. So to get any kind of hopium, this is what you're looking for. Minimum, at minimum, right? This is going to be the line in the sand. I'm going to clean that up so we don't confuse you. At minimum, you want to see this. So we'll go on a lower time frame over here. There we go. I'll price label it for you. This is the absolute, for scalpers, short-term traders, the absolute lowest time frame that I would look at before getting long is a big move up. Reclaim above 86,235. You should get some sort of a throwback over there. So you need to be careful. We need to go on to some of the other high time frame charts as well. Where's my weekly chart? So this is the 1 weekly chart that we looked at. Now we've come super close to tagging that. And I made this, I covered this earlier on this week. Here it is. I said, what happens if we're just going to put in, excuse me, that's the wrong thing. Let me just grab the right chart over here. There we go. What happens if you put in a left shoulder, a head, there we go, which means you're going to drop down to about that 75K, put in the complacency bounce and a right shoulder. I said, I think that this is very likely. Very, very, very likely. But does that mean that you should just exit now? No, guys, that's crazy. You can't do that. Now we're approaching, the bounce zone. We're very, very, very close to the bounce zone. You have to wait for some sort of a bounce. Where will that bounce go? The only way we can tell where the bounce will go to is when we have a confirmed bottom. So what you're going to need to do, whether you come back and watch another video or not, is measure from the high down to the low. Let's just speculate and say that we're going to bottom over here at like 74K. Then your right shoulder will probably rally as high as the 0.618 into that level. So I'm just speculating. If this is the low over here, then you have a bit of a lopsided head and shoulders. I would prefer for it to come down to back down to this region and test these lows, which is going to be about 74,800. And then you can run your fib, of course, from that high down to the low. And then you can look for the right shoulder to form the complacency bounce, the rejection at 108,329. And I've been scouring Twitter all morning, and I've been reading all the different theories. And I know that there's still a lot of hopium. A lot of the big KOLs are still, they're still calling for much higher, 200K, 300K. Guys, I don't think that's going to be the case, right? I definitely don't think that's going to be the case. I think your most likely outcome is a complacency bounce. And I know there's so many people trying to cope with this, right? Most of the people that lash out and are angry and stuff, it just shows they're so badly down. So I do feel for you. I really feel for you. Alrighty. Okay. You guys say Russia-Ukraine conflict news again. Is that the case? Is that what's happened? Let's go over here to the newsroom and have a quick look. Let's quickly see what's happening over here. Did something else come out with that? Wait, we need to be on research. Let's go to research over here. What is going on over here? Do I see anything around that? Government says it may intervene before the Japanese yen to US ratio reaches 160. I don't, these are 2 hours ago. I don't see anything else that's come out as breaking right now. These are 4 minutes ago. Let's see, 4 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago. I mean, you may be right. You may be right. But I don't see anything coming up here yet. Okay. I don't see anything coming up here yet. So it's been pretty brutal. Weeklies down. Monthlies are down. Only Dash, Zcash, ICP, STRK, a couple of other things are up on the monthly, but for the most part, everything is down. So let me know in the comments if there's anything I can address or help you guys with. I'm here for you. I think that one of the best things you can do is just protect your available capital. Don't give it all back, trying to buy all the dips and things like that. So take advantage of things like communities and Black Friday specials and all of that. This is actually an interesting story because I can tell you this about a couple of Black Fridays ago. It might have been like 5 Black Fridays ago or 6 Black Fridays ago. There was a massive correction. And I was also in that position. And I was like, you know, should I even renew my TradingView account? That's what I said to myself. It's Black Friday. It's come around. They have the TradingView sale that's on for like 70% off. And I was like, I don't even know if I want to spend whatever it was, $200 or $300 on this Black Friday special. I was like, should I pack it up, right? Hang up the gloves, hang up the shoes, never trade again. And obviously I made the decision. I said, I'm just going to buy it. It gives me 1 year subscription and I'm going to settle down and, you know, trade back. That's what I did. So you guys can do it too. You guys can do it too. Use the discounts. Yes, as Danny says over here, great discounts right now and lots of different, not alts. No, don't buy altcoins. I don't think that's a good idea, but use the discounts in Black Friday. Okay, cool. We can have a look at some of these meme coins as well, just out of interest, like how the meme coins doing. So let's go into, we'll go into the daily charts over here and we'll drop down onto the meme coins, because you'd think that most of the liquidity is drained. Like how much lower can these things go, right? But this is coming in for a double bottom. So very good chance on WIF, for example. Very good chance that if you start to close below that, you're gonna bleed out. I don't think it will go down in a capitulation like style anymore. I don't think that you'll do that. But I do think you'll do this. I think you'll probably hold below and then you'll just slowly bleed out like that. That's probably the most likely outcome for a lot of these as you move into a bear market in 2026. That's the most likely outcome. SPX 6900, of course, we'll have a look at that. Absolutely rinsed as well. There we go. We actually drew this a while back and said at least probably watch for a sweep. If you're lucky, you sweep this level, drop below the yellow line, which is at 45 cents, reclaim above 45 cents, and then maybe it opens up a big relief rally, because this will get a relief rally. It's just been brutal, right? At some point, there will be a relief rally. So you're looking for something very similar to this, what occurred over here. You need to break down, you need to reclaim, and then the reclaim often results in those big moves towards the upside. Okay, so these are getting wrecked. What about the age-old Dogecoin? Let's go to Dogecoin. So there it is, Dogecoin just bleeding out. It's probably coming all the way back down for these lows at 10 cents. All right. Yeah, McDonald's is hiring, but I heard it's not crypto people. They're going to reject them from the door. All right. Also, guys, protect your capital, right? Protect your capital. Stay safe in terms of security, because I actually saw this coming out yesterday. Brazil sounds the alarm on a new WhatsApp crypto malware wave. So they were sending out a whole bunch of messages over there. That's a Trojan horse called 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗄. Okay, so this could spread worldwide. One way that you can protect yourself is with a VPN. They also have a special on that below for Black Friday. So use the link if you do want to stay protected. Use a VPN, right? At the very minimum, use a VPN to protect your crypto. Okay, what else? What else, guys? So here's Bitcoin, you know, hovering around. Is it possible that that's the shakeout? That's the low before the big bounce? Of course, it's possible, but you don't lose sight of the high time frames. The high time frames are in free fall. There it is. High time frames are in free fall. This is very, very, very bearish. It's better to wait for confirmation, for emotions to settle down. You have theoretically met the criteria. There we go. We just got the new data in. So in the last 1 hour off of this flush, you got another $1 billion liquidated, mostly from the long side, 952 million, which takes the 24-hour liquidation to 1.78 billion. So let me quickly check something on the other side over here. Let me see how much I'm up in Bitcoin terms. This is just for myself. Okay, now I'm logged out. Anyways. All right, so guys, be careful. Be careful out there. How much money do the longs have? I wonder this myself. How much money do they have, right? How do they keep doing this? Where do they keep finding the capital from? So once they fully flushed, a great way to know that is when they shift into, and maybe I just do a refresher on this quickly. Maybe let's get this to reset over here just to double check. Let's double check this over here on this layout in case this has gone negative now. Still not. Dropped it a lot. Look, dropped it a lot. Funding still 0.0018. So it's getting there. It's getting there. But maybe if you drop into the 70s, it will go negative. But this is not good, right? Don't lose sight of this. You are breaking the trend. This is the long-term trend. That's the most generous trend one can draw for the bulls. You can't give any more of a generous trend. So how do you make it all back, guys? In my opinion, this is not the only way, but one of the better ways to do it is to not get emotional and lose the last bit of money that you may have if you're somebody that has drawn down. And this goes for anyone that did very well and also exited. If you exited when I exited, which was specifically on this candle over here. There we go. On the 14th of August, the bearish engulfing candle, that was the signal for me. Bearish engulfing candle at all-time highs is not a good sign. Price at that point in time was trading at 124K. If you did get out at that point in time and you have capital to spare, save it. Don't lose it. One thing that you can do, which is what I'm doing, is I already mentioned this yesterday, but if you go to the link in the description below to Bitfunded, I've purchased 30 challenges because they have a special where you buy 3 and you get 3 for free. So I purchased 30 of them, which means I have 60 challenges. You're getting 100% profit split on those challenges, whereas usually they take like 20%. You keep 80% of your profits, they keep 20. So I've got 60 challenges, which gives me around 1 per week for the whole next year. And that's also spread, right? I bought a couple of expert ones, advanced ones. I split it amongst all of these, and I'm just going to wait patiently for the market to settle. And then I'm going to move into trading challenges so I don't have to use my own capital, use other people's money. If you want to do that with us, Black Friday, join into Whale Room. All right. Cool. Buying Sol at 99. Let's have a look over here at Sol. If you'll get that, we should look at Solana on the low time frames as well. Solana dropped as low as 122 over there. 122. Let's go back to Sol on the big time frame. There it is. So remember, we spoke about Solana as well, and we said the short trade activates into this yellow box over here. That was the breakdown, the bearish retest, and down you go. So major support is going to be coming in the form of that $100 region. And I do think you'll get it. You'll probably get it. It's just a question of, do you put in a little bit of a bounce here first, like that, and then come down, or do you just nuke straight away? I think you're going to get the 100 for sure. All right. They won't have anything to do in Banter Royale tonight. That is a good point. There is Banter Royale tonight. So if you want to go and see what those guys are going to trade, tune in for that. I forgot I had to mention that as well to remind you guys of that. That is happening in a couple of hours' time. Short Zcash, I would not do that. Zcash is one of the strongest coins that's out there. I have mentioned that I personally believe that it will be topped out before the end of December, but I would not short it. This is definitely one of the strongest coins out there. And in fact, it's actually forming an ascending triangle, and I can give you a price target of where that's likely to go to. So let me just double check everything over here. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Let's remove all of that. Let's take that off. So you can see over here, you're starting to form an ascending triangle, which means we can get a measured move. There it is. And that means the breakout will send Zcash to $1,070. Okay, $1,070. All right. And I am still long on Zcash. There you go. 2,700% up for all the haters in the room here. 2,700% up. So don't misconstrue what I say, right? I'm saying that this will probably go to $1,070 quite easily, very quickly like that. If this ascending triangle holds true, this will hit $1,070 by 26th of November. I can't see it dragging on anywhere past that. By the 26th of November, you'll probably hit that. But what I am saying is that it will probably top completely before the end of December. The top will be in the blow-off top on Zcash. So I would not short this. This is the strongest coin out there. If there was anything you're looking for a long on, it would still be this. I mean, that's basically the long trade over there. Enter in here, price moving up to, 1,069 gives you a 3.7 to 1 risk to reward ratio. That is a 56% move. Okay. So there is your Zcash entry. For the question about where's the Zcash entry, that's it. That is your Zcash entry. The market's flushed. You can't short now. That's retarded, for lack of any other word. It's absolutely idiotic. You cannot short now. You can't enter a new short. I am in shorts, but I entered those shorts long ago, way long ago, right? So the trades that you'd be looking for now would be longing the things with the most relative strength, which is going to be Zcash and ASTER. So there's your Zcash long. Okay, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Now we can look at ASTER. ASTER, you could theoretically look for a long over here as well. I mean, call that the flush. The flush is done. Put your stop underneath. And for ASTER, you can trade this all the way back up. All the way back up, because I believe this will print a cup and handle formation. So I believe this will create some sort of a rounded bottom. But this isn't an anomaly, right? These coins are anomalies. Everything else is trading like trash. There's very few things that are strong with relative strength, and this is one of them. All right. If you're looking for a tier 1 exchange to trade on, by the way, guys, there is Femex. There's a link in the description below because they have a big sign-up bonus up to $30,000. All right. There's a video below that shows you as well how to claim your sign-up bonus. All righty. So those would be the trades. That would be what I'd look at. If I was going to jump into a trade right now, it's a 7% downside move over here for ASTER for a potential 78% upside move. So I'm actually going to move ASTER to the top. I know it's not a layer 1. We'll even move that out so we don't confuse it. We'll keep the 2 best performers on the top, and then we can monitor that each and every day. So this is your trade. This is the trade that you're looking at. Alrighty. All right, guys, I'm checking out your comments. Let's just see if there's anything else that we need to round up over here. Zero out of 30 indicators not flashing. I think that, are you referring to probably the bull market peak indicators? They won't flash. If that's what you're referring to, Alan, they won't flash because they very heavily built on the overextension of price cycles, the euphoria of price cycles, and on-chain metrics. And that stuff is not going to fire off in this cycle. Bitcoin would have to be at like 300K for those things to tick. XRP is breaking down. It's not good. Hype we can look at because Hype was one of the ones with relative strength. But yeah, not great. Let's go on the daily first. Back testing into this key support area. So this is the key zone, right? Basically, you don't want Hype to gain acceptance under 31. But in order to get back bullish, you basically have to recover the breakdown area, which is 39. 30% dip is normal in a bull market. That is true. However, there's certain things that you need to consider. And for that, I'm going to have to whip up my next chart. So give me 1 second over here. That is true. That is true. But there's context. Everything comes with context, right? Everything must be taken with context. And what do we have now? What do we have in terms of context? We have the high. We can pull price down here to 35%. This is your context, okay? Firstly, the timing of the cycle. We played out the 1,070 days, right? That's the longest cycle we've ever had. The end. That discussion is over. The context is, yes, 30% corrections are normal in a bull market, but when you reach the timing end of a crypto cycle around that 1,070-ish days, which by now we're trading way above that, we are like 1,100, if this even worse, still a bull market, the corrections should become shallower and shallower. So for example, if you look at this correction, it was 31.9% from high to low. It should be shallower in price and shallower in time, okay? So if we look at this correction over here, from there to there in time, it was 11 bars, 77 days. if we look at this correction over here, from there to there, it is 42 days. So you have that, right? You have that. This is shorter in terms of time. But the consolidation really actually began from there, which is 98 days. But I'm giving the benefit of the doubt and taking from the high. But it should not be deeper in price. So if this correction were there, you drop down to about 100K, that would have been the sweet spot to rally it out of there. Based on the fact that you've now gone 35.56% down versus the prior 31.95% down, suggests that you've overextended the usual drawdown, because each correction should become shallower and shallower, right? If you have a look at this over here, this correction, look how long that one lasted. From there to there, 147 days. So it's a longer correction, shallower correction, and shorter in time. Deeper correction in price, I mean, maybe you can make the argument in time it's shorter, but I would really start it from about here, because this was actually where that bearish engulfing candle came in. And then you had one more peak up. 30K incoming. I mean, not today. Definitely not today. If there's going to be bigger problems. What I also want to highlight, by the way, is regarding the MACD. So let's just quickly go to that. Let's delete this over here. Let's go to the MACD over here. The MACD on the monthly has crossed down. We've never had a bull market continue with the MACD crossing towards the downside and confirming on the monthly. And in order to avoid that, you have 9 days and 16 hours left to rally price above $97,392 to avoid that cross. So that's happening. The 3-week is already confirmed, and you've also never continued a bull run when you had the 3-week MACD crossing over at this point in the timing cycle, meaning 1,100-ish days later, right? So to avoid that and get that crossing bullish again, price needs to rally $133,000 to $133,000. So those are the things you're contending with. And what you're going to see is there will be a bounce, and when price rallies out of there, the euphoria will return. You should notice and pay attention to when that bounce takes place. What is the sentiment doing at that point in time? And you will probably notice the sentiment at a much lower price will be higher than what the sentiment was at the highest price. And the volume will probably be dropping off as well when that happens. So if we just pull this chart up over here with our volume, let us go all the way back. I just want to pull up the full year. Here we go from there. What will the volume be doing? And this is one of the things that helped to keep us relatively safe is we had been studying the volume with each of these little bounces, and we had seen that the volume is lower and lower and lower on each of those bounces, and that's your warning sign. So I think you'll see something similar. So look, the good news is in the very short term right now, as of today, the good news is you're recovering back above that value area low. Let me just get it perfect over here, because this is based on time. So if we look over a 1-year time period, there you go. Your orange line is your value area low, and you can see you've just ticked back above that. So closing back above that is 84,141 is a decent sign. Okay, guys, make sure you use the link in the description below if you want to check out WhaleTrade's site. It is completely free. You can also follow me on all the socials over here. Follow me on X, follow me on Instagram if you care to see what else is going on in life over there. I'm going to a very big event on Saturday. I'd love to show you guys what's going on, what's happening at that event. Use the link below to WhaleTrades. Everything is there for you guys. You got Whale School as well, which is free. There it is, WhaleTrades. Use that link over there. Other than that, look, we'll reevaluate later. I'll update all of you in Whale Room as things unfold over here, but bears are very much in control. There will be a short-term bounce, and it should be coming very soon. I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good day, and cheers for now.